Okay, picture this for a second. You're just walking down the street, minding your own business, and someone walks right up and hands you a massive stack of cash. No strings attached, just for being there. Today, when we hear the name MrBeast, that is exactly the kind of insane scale that pops into our heads, right? We're talking private jets, actual mountains of money, million-dollar productions, and giveaways that literally change people's lives overnight. It's a level of success that honestly kind of breaks the brain. But how exactly does a normal person get to the point where they're racking up billions with a B of views and pulling off the biggest stunts on the internet? Well, let's dive into this explainer because the reality behind this modern-day empire is an absolutely fascinating story of obsession, strategy, and really deep understanding of human psychology. To really wrap our heads around the sheer scale of what MrBeast does today, let's look at the number 100. Imagine setting out with literal boxes full of cash, taking on the massive logistical nightmare of finding 100 random, impoverished people to give it to. Just think about the sheer effort and planning that takes. But of course, because this is MrBeast, it wasn't just a simple handout. There's always a deeper layer, a psychological catch that makes his stuff so incredibly gripping. He decided that each of these 100 random people would receive exactly $10,000. But here is the brilliant twist. Every single person who accepted the money had to state exactly what they were going to use it for. And we're not talking about vague answers here. We're talking about real, raw human needs. One person told them they desperately needed it to buy medicine for their sick mother. A single mom said she just needed it to keep her family afloat. Another person, a student, said the money was going straight to their school fees so they wouldn't get kicked out of class. But wait, the real challenge was just getting started. Jimmy and his team actually followed these individuals with hidden cameras to see what they'd do. Were they actually telling the truth? Well, it turns out most people did exactly what they promised. They went and bought essential supplies for their families. A few, went straight to the mall for some luxury items. But for the folks who were honest, the ones who used the money for the right reasons, Jimmy showed up at their front doors with the ultimate surprise. And I mean life-changing stuff. We're talking buying a brand new house for a struggling family, completely paying off full university fees for that dedicated student, and handing over the keys to a brand new car for a hardworking laborer. It's this exact crazy blend of massive scale, pure entertainment, and just unbelievable generosity that really begs the question, how did he become the biggest YouTuber in the world? How did Jimmy Donaldson, just a regular kid from a small town, build an empire that can casually fund millions of dollars in giveaways? To find that out, we have to pull back the curtain, step away from the private jets, and look at a hidden past that looks absolutely nothing like the MrBeast we know today. Let's rewind a bit to Jimmy's humble beginnings. Jimmy started his channel when he was only 13 years old, living in a small town in North Carolina. Way before the record-breaking budgets, there was just a young kid with a massive dream, totally fascinated by the internet and studying other creators. And honestly, the contrast between that kid and the empire he runs today is wild. On one hand, you have the current MrBeast, billions of views, a huge production team, worldwide philanthropy. But on the other, you've got 13-year-old Jimmy making super low-quality gaming videos on an old, laggy computer. He was pulling in maybe 50 to 100 views a video. It's almost hard to believe it's the same person. For years, he was basically shouting into the void, getting zero traction. But the difference between Jimmy and everyone else is that when he was faced with just 50 views, he didn't quit. He doubled down. Which leads us to the phase of cracking the algorithm. There's this really common misconception that blowing up on the internet is just luck, like winning a digital lottery. But Jimmy's success? It was the result of a highly calculated, deeply obsessive 12-hour grind. He wasn't just throwing videos at the wall to see what stuck. He was tearing apart the machinery of the platform. Step 1, obsessively analyzing thumbnails to figure out the exact colors and facial expressions that make a human finger click a mouse. Step 2, studying titles and analytics, literally drawing on whiteboards to track exactly the second viewers got bored and clicked away. Step 3, editing late into the night. We're talking about 10 to 12 hours every single day, dedicated entirely to mastering audience retention. And all that work finally culminated in his viral breakthrough. All of that relentless studying was building up pressure, like a volcano getting ready to erupt. He knew the exact formula for a perfect video, but he needed a concept so utterly absurd that the internet literally could not ignore it. So, in 2017, Jimmy sat down in front of a camera and decided to do something no sane person would ever do. He counted to 100,000, out loud, one by one. It was a physically grueling, exhausting challenge that took countless hours of just sitting there and speaking. But guess what? When he finally uploaded it, That algorithm he had spent years obsessing over finally clicked. The video exploded. It went massively viral. Those 12-hour days completely paid off. He had cracked the code. Putting this whole journey into perspective, the timeline really speaks for itself. Born in 1998 in North Carolina, uploading his very first terrible quality video at age 13, and it isn't until 2017, years and years later, that he counts to 100,000 and gets that first massive hit. Fast forward to today, and he's doing record-breaking giveaways for billions of viewers. This timeline is absolute proof that his path to 1 billion views wasn't some overnight accident. It was a marathon of extreme patience. It was years of grinding in the shadows before he ever got a taste of the spotlight. But going viral once isn't enough, which brings us to scaling the challenges. To capture that lightning in a bottle and push the boundaries over and over, Jimmy introduced what is honestly a genius growth strategy. He started doing these massive last-to-leave challenges, literally drawing giant circles in the dirt around huge piles of cash. And it all operated on a simple, relentless feedback loop. Make a video, earn money, reinvest absolutely everything, and get more views. This right here is the secret sauce. Most creators get a big check from a viral hit and they go buy a fancy car, right? Not Jimmy. He took every single dollar and poured it straight back into making the next video bigger, crazier, and more spectacular. By reinvesting everything, he basically guaranteed that his audience would never, ever be bored. But to truly get what MrBeast is all about, we really have to anchor all these insane analytics and budgets back to real humanity. Remember that 10,000 rupiah giveaway we talked about earlier? Well, when one elderly man received his cash, his reaction was just pure, overwhelming joy. He said, "Aaj meri Eid ho gayi. Today is like Eid for me." That right there shows the tangible, real-world impact of Jimmy's reinvested money. He's not just buying views for the sake of it. He's funding food banks, helping families, and creating moments of genuine relief for people who are really struggling. And that perfectly captures his core philosophy. As the quote goes, "Agar aap kisi ki zindagi badal sakte hain, to zarur badaliye." Which means if you can change someone's life, then you definitely should. It proves that while his videos are these wild, entertaining spectacles, they're equally rooted in a message of humanity. He's literally using the most advanced algorithmic strategies on the planet to fund and spread a message of deep, inspiring generosity. So when we boil it all down, the real secrets to his billion-view empire become crystal clear. Yes, the money is huge and the stunts are absolutely wild. But the true pillars? Unmatched consistency, showing up to do the work every single day. Constant learning, never assuming you know enough, and studying the data like your life depends on it. And never giving up, pushing through those quiet years when you're only getting 50 views on a broken computer. It was his relentless grind that built this empire, not luck. Which leaves us with a pretty provocative thought to wrap things up. If Jimmy Donaldson can turn 50 views into a global empire through sheer consistency and an absolute refusal to quit, what dream are you going to start working on today? The blueprint is literally right there. It takes patience, it takes grueling work, and it takes an obsession with learning. So next time you watch a massive MrBeast giveaway, remember that 13-year-old kid in North Carolina who just refused to give up. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this sparks the motivation to go tackle your